what is crazy is that you and I are more connected, or we have the potential to be connected than any other generation of humans that has ever lived on this planet. And I say this as someone who was born in 1978 and who literally remembers picking up the phone and saying, "Hello, can we please use the line? We have to call the police," because other people were talking on it. It was a shared line. This is a wild time to be alive. I mean, we have followers, we have subscribers, we have Slack and Telegram communities that we have muted many times until it became a permanent mute. We have DM threads with fantastic people that we had amazing conversations with, but then never talked to again. And in this time when we have the greatest potential to have connections around the world, I've been asking myself something, and I want to ask you. Do you actually feel like you belong? Like, do you feel like you are in a community of people? Because there is a huge difference between being connected and belonging somewhere. And I think a lot of us have been so busy accumulating connections and subscribers and followers that we forgot to notice a very important thing that we need in order to survive, in order to thrive. And that's belonging. And I think we've noticed that we just don't always, or maybe at all, belong somewhere. And I want to talk about this a lot. And I'm probably going to talk about this and keep talking about this because we need to start to identify what real community actually looks like. And then how do we find it, or how do we build it? And then honestly know when we're in it. And I say that as a builder and as a joiner. How do we know when we are truly in community? This one matters the most because I think a lot of us start things. We start Facebook groups, we start Telegram chats, we start a conversation with people, and it fizzles out. And we don't know the point when it was good and when it started to fizzle out. It's a skill that we're going to work on. And I think a lot of us have just been in this kind of like hollow space for so long where we've really forgotten what the real thing looks like, or maybe we never had it. Look, this is what I do know. In the 1980s, sociologist Ray Oldenburg wrote about something that once I heard about it, it has never left me. And that's the third space, or the third place. This is a space that isn't home and it isn't work. What it is like the coffee shop. It's the bar on the coffee, or on the show Cheers. Okay. This was really important. Cheers absolutely captured this for us, but it was like the barber shop. It was that place where you walked in and everybody knew your name and the conversation just picked up exactly where it left off the last time you saw them. Now, those places have been disappearing for a long time. I remember when Starbucks first came into Canada, and they used to have these big long tables and lots of places for people to sit and have conversation. And then as capitalism wore them away and they realized that people were just sitting at those tables all day with one cup of coffee and that they were occupying a lot of real estate and paying for a lot of bums and seats without a lot of cups of coffee, those spaces started to erode. We didn't have places to sit and have really good conversation. And the problem with, pubs and bars is that people stopped decentering alcohol as a community builder, and those spaces changed too. And then what happened is the internet came along and it kind of gave this big promise to replace them. This is where you can be connected from somebody across the world from you. But it didn't quite do that. And I'm starting to think that it was actually intentional. It gave us this idea of connection. And what it did was it actually just taught us to perform connection as opposed to actually create connection. Everyone is just broadcasting all the time. I'm doing it right now. We're not actually having a conversation, and I hate that, but I do want this to be a starter. I want you to go into the comments as I create these videos. I want us to have conversations, and then I also want you to meet me in the Good Gather and in Create the Rules, our Ripley space, to have these conversations in person live, and I'll talk more about that later. But right now, like I said, everybody's broadcasting and nobody's actually responding. I decided to go, I don't really go on social media that much. I do scroll it every once in a while, but I don't post a lot of stuff. I've started posting. I started posting on LinkedIn and Threads and Facebook just to see what happens. And this is the thing. I might put something out and I might get 3 or 4 hearts, but nobody's actually responding. Nobody's like participating in the conversation. These likes and reaction emojis, they're okay, but they're kind of really empty. And even if someone does respond, I'll just say that it pretty much fizzles in under 48 hours. 10,000 people who know your content, but nobody actually knows you. And part of that is because we're just broadcasting and we're not showing up in the comments. And part of it too is that people are just doom scrolling and they're just passively taking in this information without actually stepping into the idea of community. Now, I think Facebook groups are a really clear example of this. And because I'm old, I'm going to reference it. If you're watching this and you're like, I've never really belonged to a Facebook group, I'll just say this. They used to be this space that everybody was hanging out in, and people would post something very real, sometimes really vulnerable, something's very like things that were going on in their life, something they actually needed to say. And what would happen is it would get a little handful of hearts and maybe some comments. But then the person either never came back to the post, or they never responded to the comments, or after a day or two, the feed moved on and we lost that story completely and we lost the person. And this is a challenge. It isn't because the person who posted it didn't care, but it was because the act of posting satisfied their need to get it out and didn't actually address their need to get it out in community. Okay. And that isn't their fault. It is actually the platform's fault. And this is where I'm saying I'm starting to think social media was never actually designed for us to be social. It just was designed to give us the idea of being social, the idea of being connected, the idea of being community, while mass amounts of propaganda were then given to us so that it would change the way we think. It was absolutely built for posting, putting out things, pushing out things, not actually bringing in, not actually any kind of intermixing or conversation or co-creation or collaboration. Posting and being in conversation are two different things. And I think this is something we really have to get good at identifying. Now, you might have posted something really genuine, and a few people responded, and you feel like this little flicker, like, oh, people are here. I felt it yesterday. I was posting on the FAM app and I was getting responses and I was getting a bit of conversation in here. And I thought, oh, maybe this is going somewhere. But then I went back the next day and nothing. Like, it was just gone because new people were coming on to the app and new conversations had been posted since I posted the day before. And so it was just absolutely cold. Everybody had moved on and there wasn't really a connection formed. I wasn't able to actually kind of sit there with somebody and be in conversation with them that could actually expand on the idea that I originally posted. So this is what I want to actually identify here and put a name to it. It's incomplete connections. They're like starter connections, like little sparks, but we didn't actually give them any kind of fuel to keep going. None of this is our fault, by the way. These are definitely platforms that have been created for that. Even in this conversation, I think YouTube is trying to bring in some community aspects and some community standards in here where we can like have posts and we can kind of talk back and forth, but we're still missing part of like the really good part of it. And part of it's because we're just out of practice. We do not know how to have discourse. We do not know how to have discussion. We do not know how to have conflict. And we don't know how to take someone's idea, fuse it with our own, bring more of that information in, and create something together. Collaboration and community. These are things we definitely need to be working on, okay? Now, real community really has always required one thing. And that's being in the room together or being in the community, being in the neighborhood, being in the vicinity of each other, actually present. It doesn't necessarily have to mean physically, but it's present and at the same time, because that's how conversation is different from a comment thread. I have had so many times people have been like, oh, I love asynchronous. I can go and comment and I come back 3 days later. But that's not actually conversation. Again, that's just posting and seeing what goes out there. But when we actually are in conversation, it's like we're actually with someone, we're responding, we're growing, we're interacting, and we're creating in real time, okay? It's it's back and forth. They say something, you respond, and it keeps building. And then you end up somewhere neither of you could have gotten to on your own. And that happens because you're both there in real time, fully present. So the first thing I want you to understand is that community is synchronous, okay? It requires a shared presence, and that can be in person or virtual, but it really can't be asynchronous. You can't build real belonging in a feed, no matter how active that feed is. The format itself just prevents it. Now, the second thing is that community requires repetition. You have to see the same people more than once. Now, I know this sounds really obvious, but it's actually the thing that most online spaces completely fail at. You show up to a webinar, you have a great conversation in the chat, and then you never see that person again. I've done that I don't know how many times at these networking events, virtual or in person. You show up, you have this incredible connection, this incredible conversation, and then you never follow up. That's not community. Even if you went every week, if you are seeing different people and you're not progressing, you're not creating the same conversation into the next step, it's just not community. It might be a pleasant encounter. You might have had a lot of fun, but community is what happens when those pleasant encounters accumulate into something with real weight, history, repetition. Now, the third thing is that community requires a container of some sort. It could be in your home. It could be in your neighborhood. It could be in a virtual world like the Good Gather. It's some kind of shared context that gives people a reason to keep coming back. I'm starting to form a community at my gym. I go almost every day. I see the same people at the same time. We start to do this little nod. Conversations are starting to form. We're starting to know things about each other. It's a shared interest. We've created this shared interest around moving our muscles. It's a shared value. It's a shared practice. It's something that is relatable. It's not a shared purchase. For those of you who have created a course or have bought a course or a group program and you have met people in there, that's not it. We're not meeting around capitalism. We're not creating community around capitalism. But we could create community around anti-capitalism. And I'll talk about that more in another video. The shared something that it has to really matter enough to show up again and again. Now, the fourth thing, and I see this skipped all the time, but it's important. Community requires you to actually participate and not perform, not be someone that you're not be perfect all the time. I really need you to participate because there's a huge difference and we need it. Performing is like showing up with your highlight reel. I've seen this in masterminds a lot where people are trying to come, and masterminds and coaching is like a fantastic therapy, fantastic experiences. You get to share, you get to relate, other people feed into it. But usually we are in this protective space, and because we are either there to make connections or networking or to get clients or to do all this to do the superficial stuff, we really just show up with a highlight reel. Now, participating is actually showing up with what's true for you right now, being really open, bringing your best ideas. Community can't form around this kind of performance because performance just always keeps people at that arm's length. Remember I said it was protective. What we really want to do is create community that is formed around honesty, which is why the spaces that feel the most alive are almost always the ones where people are allowed to be in process. And that is scary and that is risky. We're going to talk about that later. So if you're feeling like you've been sitting with that feeling of not quite belonging anywhere, here's where I would start. I want you to get really honest about what you actually need. Not what sounds good, not what you think you can get, which is a dangerous thing. Not what you think you should want, but what you actually need right now. Some people need intellectual stimulation. I sure do. I also need to be able to laugh. I need to be able to laugh a lot. And I can laugh by myself, but I love laughing with other people. Some people need to be around people who are thinking really hard about interesting things. And some people need emotional support. Some people just need to be known and to feel less alone in what they're carrying. Just be able to say once a day how they're actually doing. Now, some people need creative energy. They want to work with other creatives. They want to make things. They want to explore. They want to learn new ways of creating. They need to be around people who are making things. Most people need some sort of combination of all of these. And in various times of our life, we're going to need some things more than we need others. This skill that I want you to practice is knowing which one is most needed right now. That's going to help you find the right room. Then you need to start looking for spaces that are live and recurring, not one-off events, not summits, not workshops, not things that have a start and an end. The container of what you meet that is recurring might have a start and end, but it isn't one-off. We want to look for recurring spaces where the same people show up regularly enough to actually to start knowing each other. Now, this is the thing to filter for before anything else. If a community doesn't have regular live touch points, it's going to struggle to build real belonging, no matter how good the intentions behind it are. I'm my community league president. What we're trying to do is create these repeatable events that people can come back to and get to know each other. When neighbors know each other, things change. Things are promising. Things feel alive, okay? Now, when you find a space that feels promising, I want you to give it real time. A lot of people show up once and they're just like, nope, this wasn't it. Or only 2 people showed up. This was a waste of my time. Don't give up too early. Don't just show up once or twice. It's going to feel a little awkward, especially if you're coming into a community where there's already a lot of people in there. I know it can feel really awkward or daunting. I just want you to give it some time. You might not immediately click with anyone. Here's the thing. When I first started the Catalyst, people would say, oh, I came in the room, but nobody was there. I'm like, did you stay for like 5 or 10 minutes? No, I left right away. Well, the thing is another person came in the minute after you left, and then we missed that connection point, right? So sometimes we have to give it some time. Sometimes we have to be the starters. Sometimes we have to wait for the person who we were supposed to meet to show up too. I get it. I know we don't have a lot of time, but we need this. We need to start committing to this. This kind of awkwardness that we feel in community, especially when we don't know if we belong yet or if this is the space for us, it's absolutely normal. And it's not a sign that the community is wrong for you yet. It's just what it feels like right before people know each other really well. I want you to work through it. I want you to keep coming back to that space. I want you to be the person who keeps showing up even before it feels comfortable, because that consistency is actually what builds the comfort, and it also is what makes it possible for the next person who's joining that space. Now, when you're in a session, I really want you to also resist the urge to stay on that surface, and I know that feels really risky, but the communities that people actually stay in are the ones where they said something real and it lands well, where they took a small risk and it paid off. I say the most random, awkward things sometimes in the Good Gather. And, sometimes people are like, oh, okay. And then some people are like, oh my God, me too. We don't have to go deep immediately, but just lean in a little further towards honesty than you think you need to. And I want you to watch what happens, because I have seen this happen time and time again, creating these online virtual communities in these virtual spaces. And it's magic. Now, if you want to build something rather than just find something, the process is very similar, but there's a few extra things worth knowing. I want you to start smaller than you think you need to. The instinct is always to go wide, to get as many people in the room as possible. And I've made this mistake too. Full rooms don't necessarily mean a successful community, okay? And what it can actually mean is that people can't connect because there's just too many people in. The best communities that I've ever seen or created or been a part of started with a very small group of people who were genuinely right for each other. We've seen this in the Catalyst, right? There's these 3 or 4 people that continuously come in every day, and we feel the connection with each other. When we expand that out, 10 people who really belong there will now start building something more real, more tangible, more solid than 100 people who kind of fit, or 100 people who come in and don't come consistently. So I want you to think about when you are starting to build a community, when you're creating a community for yourself, start with the who and not how many. Don't be like, I need 50 people, 100 people. No, you don't. You need good people that connect well with each other. And it's important that you be really clear about what your space is for. And I want you to think about this. If you're a business owner or a community manager, don't think of it in a marketing way. Think of it like in a genuine clarity way. Like, what is that shared thing that's going to bring people back? What's the experience you're designing for? With the Good Gather, we have a couple things. One is connection, one is people, one is the conversation, and the other is creation. It's making, it's creating movement. That's what we are designing these rooms for. They're virtual rooms where you can go in by yourself or with other people and create something together. Whether it be conversation, connection, art, writing, a movement, change in the world. That's where our connections are. The communities that really fizzle fast are usually the ones where the answer to that question was just too vague because you didn't know who you needed in the room. People need to be able to feel the reason why they should belong here. And we want to create regular live touch points and then protect them. So for us in the Good Gather, as we start out, we have all of these different meetups, these gathers, because we don't really know yet like who's going to be in the room, but we have to keep offering them even when nobody's in the room so that we build up that repetition, so that we build up these live touch points. Okay. I need to show up for them. Lacey needs to show up for them. The Gather hosts need to show up for them, even when there's nobody in there at the beginning. This consistency, it really sets the tone for everyone else's consistency. I started an early morning gather because one person wanted to have this like connection point to start off their day. Like, here's what I'm doing. Some days I'm the only one in that room, but I still keep it up. We're Monday to Friday, every morning in that time. If we cancel or skip it or reschedule constantly, we're really just giving that signal or giving that idea that the space isn't quite real yet and that we're waiting for more people to show up. I want you to show up like it's real, and other people definitely will start showing up for you. It can be hard though. The empty rooms, the empty spaces, the containers, it can be really hard at the beginning. I'm going to talk about that in a different video because I think it deserves its own its own space. Okay, the other thing is we want to make it easy for people to contribute. The Facebook groups were a really good example where people were like, I have to be seen as the expert. I have to be seen as the thought leader. No one else can contribute. Me. Those communities, nobody had any conversations. First of all, they were worried that they were going to be seen as promoting their own thing or taking away too much from the owner of the container of it. Wasn't a community. Again, it was really just a listserv, an email list that was done in a Facebook group. The communities that last are really the ones where the members have agency to create. And that was one of the important things that we looked at in the Good Gather was that how can people become gather hosts? How can people even shape the gathers that were created by somebody else? We want to give people agency. We want to make them the creators, the builders of this. We want to make them feel like they're shaping this space and not just consuming it, not just giving us money and having no say in it. We want to ask people what they want to see, what they want to hear, what they want to do. We want to invite them to host things. We want to let it become theirs. A community that belongs only to its founder will just always have this ceiling on how deeply people can belong there. Okay. Here's the big question that I had at the beginning. How do we actually know when we're in community? And this part is going to be a little bit of an ongoing series, but I want to get you started here. I think a lot of people are in spaces right now that they're calling community, but aren't quite being in community. Now, here's the signs that you're actually in it. I want you to think about like the people in these containers that you're in when you're not in a session. Not in an anxious way. I want you to think about just someone says something in a meeting that reminds you of a conversation you had in the community and you smile or you start to think about something. That means those people are real to you. It's a response mechanism. And this is important. That's belonging forming, okay? The other thing you want to look up is, are you showing up even when you're not at your best? The test of a real community isn't how you feel when you're doing well and have things to share. It's whether you still feel welcome when you're having a hard week and don't have anything polished to bring. When we first started creating the Catalyst, this was something we heard a lot. People are like, I'm like, how come I haven't seen you in the Catalyst rooms? Like, oh, I'm waiting until I have something real to share with you. No, show up every day if you want. Show up for a minute. Show up for an hour. Let me just see your face. Because if you can show up when you're depleted or you have nothing to contribute or you have nothing to say, you are still there. And that is a sign that you feel like you belong there. We don't have to be performing or producing to be in community. We can be absolutely at stasis. We could be at our worst. Absolutely. But when we still feel like we belong, that we can still come and do that, that's real. Now, the other thing is, like I mentioned, is when people don't show up to something like the catalyst, you notice when someone's missing. When a specific person doesn't show up and you find yourself wondering, are they okay? Is everything going on in their life? Have they been sick? There are some folks who I might be in community with, but they are never there. I don't think about them when they're gone because they're always gone. When a specific person that you're like, you know what? I haven't heard from such and such, and you think, I better reach out to them. That's a really good sign that you're in community. That's the difference between a gathering of strangers and a group of people who actually know each other. Now, you can feel a little braver in your work because of the people there, because you know them, because you feel real around them. This is something we need to kind of practice. When you're genuinely known by people who believe in what you're doing, something shifts. Your ideas feel more worth pursuing. When someone else names your idea that you just finished explaining to them and they name it and they acknowledge it, nothing feels better to a movement maker, to a community creator, to an idea builder, to a business owner. Your decisions feel less like shots in the dark. Being known by real people who show up consistently, who know your name, who know when you're going to be in the room, it does something to your confidence that like no amount of followers or likes ever will. I am telling you, you could go viral and it won't mean the same as showing up into a room that you come into regularly and hearing from people who know you how amazing something you've done is. Getting jazz hands from somebody, getting the celebration from it. It's big. Now, the big thing, I'm going to say the most important thing of how you know you're in a community is you come back. Not because you paid for it, not because you feel guilty if you don't, but because something genuinely inside of you wants to be there. You want to have that conversation. You want to have that laugh. You want to hear other people's ideas and you want to share your ideas. Now, if you're looking for a space like that and you want to see what one actually looks like in practice, here's my shameless promotion. The Good Gather, it's a virtual community we built specifically for this. It runs inside a virtual world where you can actually move between rooms, you can show up to live sessions, and you can find the people who are going to make your work and your life feel less like something you're doing entirely alone. No performance is required unless you're showing up for open conch night or you're on the stage and you're actually performing. This is a place for you to be absolutely real. I'm going to put the link below if you want to take a look, but regardless of whether that's the right fit for you or you're creating your own community or you're looking to join another one, I hope this gave you a clear picture of what you're actually looking for because it exists. You just have to know what to look for when you're trying to find it. And I cannot say this enough, but community, the folks out there, the government, the technocrats, everybody who's building these tools, they're afraid of us forming real community. You heard it here first. Do it. Build it, join it, create it. Please just be in community. I'm going to be posting more about this. If you like this, if you want to hear more, absolutely subscribe, like this, put a comment below. I'm going to be responding to all the comments in here. Join our Good Gathers, join our open sessions when we have them on the Ripley Network. Come be in community with us. You deserve it, and we deserve you. See you soon.